Hello, my friends. Hello, and welcome once again to stately Vaughan Manor, where Roger and I have returned because there isn't enough bad news in the world today. We had to bring you more, and it has to do with the 500 book challenge and a tragic change that is occurring to the 500 book challenge. So, Roger has reminded me that for any new viewers, I probably should explain what the 500 book challenge is really quickly. It is the challenge based off of Cronology's Read What You Own challenge. The challenge where I have to read 500 books that I own before I will purchase any new ones. That's what it is, in case you didn't know. Originally, when I did the 500 book challenge, I had specific rules for it, and I decided, or I figured, once I started the challenge, you couldn't change any of the rules in the challenge because it's already started. But recently, I've been rethinking that. So I decided to go to the person who created the rules for the 500 book challenge just to see if I could make an alteration. As it turns out, I'm the one who created the rules for the 500 book challenge, and I agreed to it. For some reason, I'm not sure. Maybe I was drunk. Who knows why it happened, but there has been a change. And the change is, now originally when I did the 500 book challenge, I separated comics from regular books for the challenge because I wanted to keep buying comic books for a specific reason, which I'll get into. Now, with this dreadful alteration, comic books will count if they're graphic novels or if they're collections of comics, not if it's just like a 23-page floppy comic. I'm not going to count that because that would be frankly ridiculous. But if it's a collection or a graphic novel, I'll count it. Why for this startling and frankly stupid change? Well, I'll tell you. And going into this, there are some exceptions and exemptions, and they're pretty big ones. I mean, they're read by Fred level exemptions. So, but it had to be so. It had to be so. The reason I decided to do it is because ever since I started the challenge, I stopped buying books. But there has been, as if to make up for it, an increased level, perhaps, of graphic novels and collections flowing into Vaughan Manor. Imagine that. I don't know how that worked out, but an increased level to the point where it's become sort of ridiculous. And it has been pointed out to me by a member of this household, one of the few that are not dogs or cats, that at the rate I am reading them, I probably will never read all of the graphic novels or collections that I've brought into the manor. I just, and this is true. And so it's time to hit the brakes on my purchasing of graphic novels and collections with certain exemptions. The main one being epic collections. Now, if you've watched my channel for a while, you know that I have a gigantic collection of hundreds of epic collections. I've been collecting these since they first came out. And it would be foolish to stop for any reason, because if I just decide, hey, I'm not going to get any more epic collections for 2 or 3 years, I'll just go back after that period and just buy them. It won't happen because Marvel's clever with these. Each epic collection is produced in a limited print run, basically. It's not really limited, but it's not a huge print run. They print enough that they know they'll sell out of it. And they can go back and reprint certain volumes in an even more limited run and sell out of those. So there's not a lot of these printed. So if you don't get for example, Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos Volume 2, if you don't buy it, it's possible that it'll go out of print, and that if you want to get Volume 2 of Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos later on, say in a year or two, you won't be able to for a decent price. You'd have to go and buy a used copy for, say, $75 to $100, which is frankly ridiculous. So, I will still be getting Epic Collections. Now, I have a lot pre-ordered. I have a lot of these pre-ordered through a couple different sellers. But once those pre-orders run out, I will continue to get Epic Collections. If I read them, I won't count them for the challenge, which means I won't read them until the challenge is over, probably. I've got plenty to read. So, Epic Collections I'll continue to collect, because it would be frankly stupid not to. There you go. So that is my big read by Fred level exception. There are a few others, because I do have some pre-orders that are going to be coming in. What are these pre-orders that are arriving? Now, after these pre-orders, I'm not going to be ordering any more giant omnibus volumes or anything, basically, until the challenge is over, in however long that takes. With 3 exceptions. You know, more exceptions, yes, there are 3 exceptions. And we'll get to those. But first, these are the pre-orders that are coming in. I've got ROM coming in. I've got actually 2 ROM omnibuses, because Marvel has already solicited not just the first ROM omnibus, the first 2 ROM omnibuses. So ROM is a character that's based on a toy, and Marvel made a comic book about it in the 70s and 80s that actually proved remarkably popular for some reason. Anyway, Marvel got the license back specifically so that they could reprint ROM. And just like they did with Conan, they're just keeping the license around long enough to do some reprint volumes, and then they'll get rid of the license again. But already 2 of these are showing up. So that's the first pre-order that's coming. Then it's Silver Age Superman Volume 1 that I've had pre-ordered forever. So first this was coming out in October. Then it's coming out in December. Now it's coming out in March, I think. They keep pushing this thing back because it's DC Comics, and DC Comics sucks when it comes to their reprint program. Unlike Marvel, who has it all figured out and has figured out how to make everything profitable and everything work, DC Comics, they're a bunch of idiots when it comes to reprinting their older material. So who knows if this will even actually come out. I'm hoping it will. But you never know with DC Comics. They've done this where they've solicited something, you've been expecting it for months or even years, and then they just never publish it because they suck. So let's hope Silver Age Superman does show up. So that's the other one I've got. Okay, then we've got Thor by Walter Simonson Omnibus. And this is going to be coming out when? Next year in April? Is that true? Damn, that's a long time. So Thor, this omnibus is coming out. This will be part of my Thor project. I do have a project going on. This is another Read by Fred exemption. I do have another project going on where I'm reading every issue of Thor, from the first volume. So the initial run of Thor, which lasted from the early 60s into the mid 90s. I don't have every issue of Thor. I have a lot of them in Epic Collections. I'm going to get this omnibus, but there are a lot of issues I don't have in either format. So I will buy those, but I'll buy e-copies. I'll buy electronic copies of those and just read them on my tablet, I guess. And so they won't count for the challenge, and they won't take up any more space, which is pretty important. That's one of the reasons I'm doing this. So that's Thor. Then there's the Micronauts omnibus. There are a few of these, which I have pre-ordered. The Micronauts, Grammaticus did a whole video on the Micronauts, which was awesome. So you can watch that video and you'll know why I pre-ordered this. Then there is the Savage Sword of Conan Volume 9. So Titan Comics took over the publishing of these omnibus volumes. I have the first 8. This is 9, which I have pre-ordered. I don't know when that's coming out. I can't remember. I'm hoping it's of the same quality as the omnibuses that have come before, but we'll see. But that's pre-ordered. And I have one more thing that's pre-ordered, which is actually 4 things. I've ordered the first 4 Atlas Comics library volumes. So actually it's 3 things, because I have the first volume already, but 3 more of these Atlas Comics library volumes are coming. They're all pre-ordered. So they're coming. That's all that stuff I pre-ordered. Now here are, so those are those. So here are some important exemptions, because there are 3 of them. Now, I don't know if any of these will actually be published, but these are books that if they are published, these are comic books that if they are published, I will buy them. I will. So I had to exempt them. So if they do ever get published, and if I do read them, I won't, during the challenge, I won't count them. One of these I think is going to be published, and that one would be the Godzilla Omnibus from Marvel Comics. I've heard that this is going to be published. It isn't up for pre-order yet, I don't believe. But I have heard that this is coming. I mean, it's Herb Trimpe artwork, so you have to get... I mean, it's Godzilla. I used to read this when I was a little kid. So yeah, I'm going to get the Godzilla, the original Marvel Years Omnibus, if it actually shows up. And there's a good chance that this one will, unlike this next one, which would be a Silver Age Hawkman omnibus. Now, this would be nice if it would show up, if DC Comics would publish a Silver Age Hawkman omnibus. That would be awesome. But there's probably a bigger chance that the moon will fall on my house. So I'm not too worried about this one. If they did it, though, I would buy it. But they probably won't, because DC sucks. Speaking of DC sucking, Sergeant Rock, if they do a Sergeant Rock omnibus, I will buy it. They probably won't, because DC sucks. If it was Marvel who had Sergeant Rock would have had 5 omnibuses by now or something. I mean, it would have all been published. But no, it's DC, so, you know, there you go. There you go. And that's it. That's a lot of exemptions and exceptions. It's a lot of them. But, you know, it had to work out that way. It had to be that way in order to include them in the challenge. And I think it's important to do so because it's more consistent. It did start to feel a little strange that every week I would get comics and comic books, but not other books when I'm supposed to be on this challenge. So, yeah. And I know that there'll be a lot of objections to this, but I don't care. I don't care. You know, it's my stupid 500 book challenge after all. And I've decided to include comic books and graphic novels, because that way maybe I'll actually read some of them. I've got a lot to read. So there you go. Comic books are included in the 500 book challenge, except for epic collections, you know, that go past the pre-order date. Wouldn't you want, I mean, you don't want me to miss. You don't want me to miss any future Sergeant Fury epic collections. That would be a crime against humanity. So there you go. That's our bad news for today. I will catch you next time.